Thank you so much for that, Bennett and or Jack, whoever threw to us, since we're recording not live. But we are joined by, we'd argue, one of the best women's basketball players, probably one of the best JMU overall basketball players to touch the convocation court, Kamiah Smalls. How are you doing today, Kamiah?
Thank you so much for having me, Jack. I really appreciate it, and I'm good. Living, making it.
Yeah. How's your last, what is it now, 11 months been through the pandemic? How's it been?
It's been up and down, as I'm sure you know. I've been in a couple different places. Currently in Italy, so it's been good. I'm doing my best just to stay up. Hoping to keep pushing through this. I haven't had any cases of COVID yet, so that's a blessing. Just pushing up.
Yeah. So the last time JMU Nation probably was fully aware of what Kamiah was doing on the court was at the end of the CAA season last year, when the season got ended prematurely. You guys had a great team, looked like things were going to be going your way in the CAA tournament. What was kind of that just initial feeling when you or how did you get the word that the season was over?
This is actually one of those days I'll never forget.
Yeah.
It was very much heartbreaking to our whole team felt it, but I think our seniors is who it really hit the hardest. We were actually getting ready to play a game. We were still in our hotel. Our game was maybe, I would say, about 5 hours away, and we get a call from our Dobo, Bree Skeens, telling us that we have a meeting. And by now, we were waiting to watch other games that were before us, and we noticed that on the virtual, on the TV, that the live stream just went off. It wasn't. So we're thinking our computer's messed up. Oh my God. We get down there. Coach O tells us that they're canceling the season. A lot of tears in that room. It was heartbreaking because, like you said, we were about to win a championship, and it was just frustrating. Very, very flow. It's uncontrollable. Can't harp on it too much.
Yeah. Bennett and I talked at nauseum when that happened about just kind of the potential you guys had. ESPN released something that kind of was these are the dark horses that would have kind of had a run. And I think they projected you guys to even make it to the Sweet 16. What did you feel out of that team? If you guys had made it to the NCAA tournament, you had played Maryland extremely well earlier in the season. You guys were playing with the big dogs that year. What did you guys expect? What was the ceiling in your mind? I mean, of course it's a championship, but what was that ceiling?
To me, I felt like we could do anything at that point. Yeah. Like you said, we should have won the Maryland game. I'll say that 100 times. And after that game and after that loss, I think that that's when we really started to excel. I think that we learned a lot from that game. And I think that if we had that chance to go to that tournament, I think ESPN projected that we could have went to the Sweet 16. I wouldn't say easily, but coming in as that underdog, a lot of people don't think highly of us, and I think we were ready to shock the world in a lot of ways. So yeah, it's very sad, but gotta get over it.
Yeah, sorry I had to bring that up. Of course, had to talk about that team. But now we'll move on to the happier things of it all. After the season was canceled, things are going on in the world, and WNBA calls. You get drafted by the Fever, I think, round 3, pick 28, something like that. You go to train. You get drafted. You go to preseason camp with them. You end up in Italy for a bit, and then the wobble happens, and you get called back by the Fever to play in the wobble. First game, you just go out of your mind. What was that wobble experience like?
It was the most overwhelming yet prepared feeling I've ever had in my life. I got drafted on my 22nd birthday. Damn. I ended up getting waived maybe about 2 months later due to the fact that we didn't have any training camps. Mm-hmm. And when I got that call back, the only thing I was thinking was that if I would have stopped after being waived, that debut could have went totally different. I stayed ready for that moment. So I think that it was just going from watching them on TV 3 days ago to actually being in that atmosphere is what really got me going. I'm the energy, I'm the upbeat. I'm just going to go out there. I'm going to give my best. I'm not trying to outshine anybody. I'm not trying to get mine. I'm just trying to fill in where it's needed to be filled in. And I think I did a perfect job of that in that debut, which is why those points just came so easy. I was open. I shot the ball. I shot it pretty well. And I think that it really set a tone for me, you know.
Were you starstruck at all? Because that first game was Chicago, right?
Yes.
So you're playing like Allie Quigley, like just huge. And then, I mean, just throughout the season, you played the Phoenix Mercury, right?
Yeah.
You played, I mean, Diana Taurasi, they have Diggins. Like,
Yes.
just the names you played. Like, I was going through it earlier today. And the names you played, you had to have been starstruck at some point during that. Like, these are, like, all-time athletes.
I was struck as soon as I stepped foot inside that gate. I was actually, my very first day there, I'm on my way to stay in my little, we call them lodges. And Candace Parker hops on my cart, Jack. And now I can't act like I'm like, oh my God, it's Candace Parker. Like, I'm here with her. Like, I'm here to compete against her. So I played it cool. But in my mind, I was like, oh my God, Candace. Like, I wanted to give her the biggest hug in the world. But I played it cool, you know. It was good, though. It was great. I actually got to guard Diana Taurasi. And just for the record, she did not score on me.
Okay.
So.
All right.
I got to guard her, and it was just like one of the craziest feelings in the world. I'm like, wow, this is somebody I've been looking up to since I was 10 years old, and I'm going up against her now. It was like a dream come true, seriously. Dream come true.
Was it easy to guard her?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I went from Diana to Sky. Oh, Sky definitely. She taught me how to use a pick and roll very well, Jack. Very well. Nobody, I don't think I came in contact with anybody that I could say was easy to guard.
Yeah. Where was I going with that one? Oh, in the wubble. Just what's that like? Like, just that experience. You're completely, like, we heard about it a lot with the bubble, and like so many people were kind of saying how like mental health was a big issue in there. Like, you're just completely locked off. What was the wubble kind of like mentally like?
I was there for a short period of time, maybe like 2.5 weeks. But even for me in those 2.5 weeks, it was like isolated, like mind games, kind of. Like, it was like you have to find different things to do with, like, you know, you're with your teammates, but like you miss your people at home. It was like once your game is done, then you're sitting here thinking about the fact that you're about to play another game in a day and a half. It was very exhausting. So I can only imagine the people that were there for those 2-3 months, how they felt in that long period of time. In my short period of time, I low-key was struggling a little bit, but we pushed through. You know, I'm proud of everybody that was there and got through that. That was a rough experience.
Yeah. Have you kept in contact with the Fever at all? Do you know if you'll be back for next season, if you'll get a look in if there is a training camp, kind of what the plan is moving forward with the WNBA and the Fever?
I have been in contact with the Fever. We talk pretty often. I'm hoping to go back to training camps. You know, I'm a free agent right now, so I'm working through a couple different things. By February 1st, we should know the team that I'll land on. So Hopefully I still get a chance. Hopefully, you know, if the Fever want me back, I'm hoping that I can make that happen, you know, explore options, different things. So we're going to have our fingers crossed, Jack.
All right, we'll keep them crossed over here too. We'll be refreshing the Twitter feed on February 1st, waiting for your announcement on Twitter or whatever team announces it. Moving from the WNBA back to JMU, we've seen kind of, I think Bennett and I both have been kind of, I think spoiled's the right way to put it. I mean, we went from Precious Hall and Jasmine to you, and now Kiki is just tearing up the court. And it's kind of been like this. Like, the teams have been great, but there's always been kind of like the number one on the team, like the go-to scorer, kind of just the bucket getter. What was that like? Was there like a torch pass? And that's such a weird way of putting it, but like from Precious to you to Kiki, there's always been that one. Was there ever like, did Precious ever pull you aside, like as she was leaving, was just like, this is your team now, like go and get it? Or was it just kind of like an unspoken, like you guys knew that what it was going to be like?
I think it was unspoken, but it was prepared through the whole year, you know. that last year with Precious taught me a lot. You know, it was her 5th year, my 1st year. And she went out there and she did it, you know. She had that dog mentality, we like to say. That's one of the things that goes around JMU a lot in our program, you know, that dog mentality. She put down a stern foot for what it means to hold like that key to success. So watching that, I think that it just grows in like the next person, you know, the next person that comes in there ready to step into those shoes to go up against whatever it is we're going up against. And I think the same thing happened with me and Kiki. I've known Kiki for a while now. You know, she's from Pennsylvania. I'm from Pennsylvania. We were on the same AAU team growing up. Obviously, she was on a younger team. I was on an older team. And it's always been a connection there with me and her. So as I was leaving, you know, we talk on multiple occasions still to this day, just about the things that it takes to, you know, be successful and to keep growing the program and to make sure that those traditions stay alive, you know. It was good to see them pick first in the CAA preseason rankings. So I let her know all the time, like, listen, you got some big shoes to fill. You gotta make sure you keep your team up to par. Make sure, you know, you motivate your young ones. You're considered an underclassman, but you're a leader of that pack. So it's a role that you take on very early. I think I had to do the same thing my sophomore year, you know, step into a big role. But when you're up for the challenge, you're up for the challenge.
I didn't even put that together, that Kiki got into that role her sophomore year. You got into it your sophomore year. I forgot that you were a sophomore when you kind of was the number one. This team, now that I'm talking it out, is very similar to the last like crop, how you all came up kind of as sophomores and took over that team. Bennett keeps calling this women's basketball team this season the perfect pandemic team, just because they're going to get that extra year of eligibility if they want it. And it's kind of, I wouldn't say a wash of a year because they're still going out and competing every night, but it's kind of like they're so young that they can just perfectly grow together. And like, if they all decide to stay, that 5th year is just going to be crazy. And
it's
um,
it's going to be good.
Yeah. What have you seen out of them this season? Like you said, you watched every game. There's been some growing pains as this season's gone on, but there's also been some shining moments. I think the Buffalo game was probably a very good indication of how great this team can be, while also showing some of the growing pains. But what have you kind of just seen out of them so far this year?
The first thing I've seen, the first thing that comes to my mind when you ask me that, is the heart that team has. You know, they're young, but they don't look afraid of anything. You know, they go out there, they give their all on a night-to-night basis. I think that, like you said, it's growing pains. You know, they're young. You have to learn the game. They're going up against people. Example for Buffalo, I can't remember her name, but their leading scorer, like, you could just tell she was more experienced in the game than JMU was. But they don't stop fighting. I haven't seen them give up yet, and I think that that's the biggest thing that that'll get them to that next level, you know. And the chemistry, like you said, if they all decide to stay through that 5th year, the chemistry is going to be through the roof by that point. So it's good. It's good. They got some things to do, but it's still good.
Because the CAA is playing that weird back-to-back schedule because of the pandemic. What is that like? Like, can you kind of just, because my experience of playing basketball is at UREC during intramurals and getting technical fouls because I slammed the ball on the ground. So I can't really speak too much to what the body feels like as you're going through back-to-back games playing at Division I high level. What is that? Like, do you feel that after game 2?
Jack, I can't even tell you how I would feel if I had to do that, you know. I feel bad for them kind of, because if you're giving your all on that first night, to turn around, to have to rewatch that game the next morning, a lot goes into, you know, preparation for a game. So to have to do that within 16 hours of another game is kind of insane. So honestly, I give all the praise in the world to them for that. That's a struggle, seriously. I hope they have a lot of ice because they're going to need it.
Do you think that benefits the winning team or the losing team more, like that quick turnaround? or neither?
I can't even tell you, because if both teams are giving their all, your body's aching. Win or lose, your body's hurting the next day. So, I mean, it comes down to your mental space at that point. It comes down to which team is stronger mentally, you know. There's no upper hand in that situation. There's no upper hand in that situation.
So back to your time at JMU, kind of what was your favorite memory of that team? We moved from the past torching to current day. Let's rewind it a bit and talk about your time at JMU. What was, just starting it off, favorite memory on the court?
My senior year, we're talking about here.
Okay. Any year.
Any year. Well, because I always throw it back to the Virginia Tech game. You know, that game is a prime example of what JMU basketball is. It's just amazing. Like, the atmosphere to start with, the heart that we showed that game, going down, you know, to the last minute with that Virginia Tech team, being Kenny Brooks on his stomping grounds, like, that game right there defines what JMU women's basketball is. But I give a lot of credit to our seniors that year too for that one. You know, Ania and Logan, they wanted that very bad. Even Kayla Cooper-Williams, you know, she was a part of that Kenny Brooks era, and you know, they just wanted to beat them. And we went out there and we gave our all, especially for them. That was a great year for us. So it was very exciting. That game is definitely top one on my list.
Prevail over the Hokies of Virginia Tech.
What was that the season? That was WNIT your sophomore year, right?
Junior year.
Okay.
When we made it to the Final Four.
Was that the year who'd you all fall to at the end?
Northwestern at home.
That was the Northwest. Okay. Yeah. And then you had the WNIT run. I think it was. So that was the same year. I'm getting all the years combined.
Sorry. Listen, I got to figure it out only because the memories just don't fade.
So then there was the year where you guys were decimated by injury in the CAA tournament. Like, just like you blink and all of a sudden, I think you were hurt, Lexi was hurt, and then I think Madison Green was hurt. It was just, I don't think I've ever seen a team hurt by injury that much. But then you guys went into the WNIT and had a little run then. Was that kind of like fulfilling? Okay.
Where we were the number one seed and we were going to win a championship that year as well too.
Oh yeah.
I broke my hand last regular season game. Then our second leading scorer, Lexi Barrett, turns around, breaks her hand 8 seconds into the first round of the tournament. We end up losing to the number 9 seed, Hofstra, and we go into the WNIT and we end up going to the Final Four.
So I have a feeling you're going to say you should have played in the WNIT, but with that broken hand, like, did you play through a lot of pain with that? Like, should you have been playing out there?
Yeah, I should have been playing.
Okay.
I should have been playing. It came down to a lot of things for me. And it's actually crazy because before we even started preseason that year, I told Coach O, like, Coach O, I don't think that I want to play in this preseason. Like, I want my hand to be fully okay for us to be okay for next year. As time went on, like, my healing process was just moving. And I found out that we could get Virginia Tech at home if we made it to a certain round. I had to. It was like in my heart. I knew that I could trust my trainers. And at the time, Jess was our trainer, and she was telling me that my hand looks good. If I'm feeling good about it and I'm confident in what I can do, go out there and do it. So I did it. I took my first shot against USF back from the hand injury. I made the 3, and it was all she wrote from there.
What would have happened if you missed that 3, though? Would you have been like, man, this hand, I don't know?
Nah, we don't make excuses. I would came back down and try to shoot a layup.
We had a while back, we had Brian Shore on, and he was talking about how after he broke his collarbone, how, like, the trainers right before he went out, they were just like, don't get hit. And he was like, well, what happens if I get hit? And they were like, just don't get hit. So I was wondering if it was kind of the same thing with the hand, but I guess I won't throw the football trainers under the bus, but I guess basketball trainers kind of had it probably wrapped a little bit tighter than they had Brian Shore's collarbone.
If getting hit was a concern concern for Jess, I promise she would not have let me play that game.
So that core that was with Logan Reynolds and everything, and you brought up just kind of her impact and Ania Young's impact and Kayla Cooper-Williams. What was it like playing with Logan Reynolds? People kind of described her as like this gritty, tough, almost like I don't know the best way to describe her game style, but she'd always just be around the ball and forcing turnovers and just like that. What was that like?
The perfect point guard. I can't and that's the best way I can put it. Logan was the perfect point guard. Logan got you the ball in the spot you needed the ball in whenever, wherever, you know. You always had to prepare yourself for when Logan was going to pass you the ball. It was kind of like a Steve Nash in women's basketball, you know, like you need to be ready for the pass. And the one thing that used to frustrate us about Logan was that she wouldn't shoot the ball when she was open. And we're like, Logan, shoot the ball. She's like, nah, I want the assist. And she ended up having in the nation, I think at one point she was ranked second in the nation for assist to turnover ratio. Logan was, and she was the point guard that kept you level-headed. She was a great leader for us. An unsung hero kind of, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I'd be calling games with Kurt on Madison, and she'd get it just wide open at the top of the key and just would grab it. No one would run out to her because I guess in the scouting report it says Logan doesn't shoot. And then she'd just pass it off, and it would always be the perfect pass. And we'd always just kind of sit there and be like, we were like, we can't be mad because it ended in 2 points or it ended in 3 points, but at the same time, shoot the ball. But I'm glad you guys were thinking the same thing. Did you ever stat watch? Because I know a lot of players talk about how they never stat watch. Did you when you were having great seasons, did you ever kind of peek at stats and be like, well, what do I need to do to get into the top 10 JMU all times? Or where do I stack up among the nation? What do I need to do this game to move up? Was there ever that, or was it just go out there and play your game?
No, I'm not even, no, not even close for me. For me, it all comes down to winning. I mean, I want to be at my best performance-wise, but to say that I sat there and just searched my stats, that's not the kind of person I am, you know? It came down to a lot of times where my teammates and Coach O would be mad at me because I wasn't shooting the ball enough. I'm like, nah, I like to pass too, you know, I could score, but I like to, you know, run up some assists. I can say though that the one stat that I always tried to focus on was my turnovers, which I guess is not as good as watching your shooting percentage, I guess, but I hated turning the ball over. I was obsessed with it for my last 2 seasons. And they were like, this isn't the stat you're supposed to be watching. I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to turn the ball over.
What do you remember what your turnover numbers were those last 2 seasons? Do you still remember it? That'd be something if you still remember.
Average at least 5 turnovers a game, and I still hate myself for it.
That's such a low number though.
But then Coach O would try to make me feel better by saying, you have the ball in your hands so much, you're going to turn it over. It's okay. I'm like, no, it's not okay. It's not okay.
And kind of last question then to wrap it all up after we trying to get on to a happier note after the 2.5 turnovers, which is a great mark. CAA play, you ran into Elon a couple of times, and then I think it was it Drexel that always seemed to be the number 2 in the CAA?
Yeah.
What was playing in the CAA like? Just from a play perspective, because as fans, we're sitting home watching it, and it seems like a gritty league, especially on the women's side. What is just playing in the CAA and playing a full conference slate? At the end of it, when you guys are number 1 or number 2, what is that feeling?
You said it. The perfect word I would say is gritty. You know, we're competitive, especially those top teams. I'll even give it to the lower teams. You know, they compete. They could be the bottom, but they're going to compete with you on a night-to-night basis. And CAA play, it's whoever shows up that night could come away with the win. You know, so when it comes down to it, I would personally say that the CAA is one of the most competitive leagues there is. You know, we give our all. Every single team gives their all. You got your shining players, you know, you got your glue players, your defensive players, and everybody does what they need to do. So It all comes down to who shows up that night, and it's a fair shake throughout the CAA every year.
Yeah, it's always fun watching the schedule, and we'll be projecting, like, we'll be on the podcast and be like, okay, so JMU should win this game, this game, and this game, and then we're just kind of like, but we wouldn't be surprised if, like, they split these, and it's kind of that way across the board too. Like every single sport, like I don't know if it's because it's a Northeastern like done, so like it recruits so many Northeastern kids. Like it is a gritty league across the board.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Kamiah. I'm really glad I was able to ask you some questions that I've always thought but never had an athlete at your level that I could ask. We wish you the best of luck this season. When does your season start?
We already started. We're in the mix. We're close to done right now, to be honest.
I should have researched that a little harder. Jeez. How's your team doing?
We're good. We're sitting in like the middle of the pack right now. We're about, I would say, 5 or 6 in the standings. So top 8 goes to playoffs. So we're in a pretty good position right now. Working hard, staying consistent, trying to stay consistent as possible.
What's the team name so anyone in JMU, if they're up at weird times of the day, can watch you play in Italy? If there's any, somehow find a way of a stream or something like that. I don't know, maybe.
Uzi Basket Rosa is based in Empoli, Italy. So we're in the A1 league, top league in Italy. We're competing with some pretty good teams out here too. Much more physical game than in the States, so it's tough over here.
So it's preparing you for February 1st when you come back for the WNBA season with whoever it is.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kamiah. Good luck in the playoffs.
Thank you so much, Jack, and go Dukes as always.